Veteran, hosted by Brandy Pett.
Welcome, everybody. It's me, Brandy P, with the Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. Hope everybody's had a great week so far. It's been a wild few weeks that we've been away. I came back from fishing a little bit earlier than Amelia and Pacifica. They'll be back next week. And hope everybody's enjoying their summer so far. I know it's been interesting with what we've got the World Cup going on, and then we just had the NBA finals happening. It was really great. I got to take my daughter to her very first Spurs game ever, so she was very excited. And we're joined once again by the amazing Miss Leah Stiles. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're happy you're here as well. And so the last time that we spoke with you, I know that you had talked about a book. Did you want to go ahead and talk about the book now that it's out?
Yeah, sure. So look, I have it right here.
Nice.
Bam. So Battle Scars and Body Wars, and it went number one Amazon bestseller like for the first day. So that was really exciting. Especially because I was feeling like I didn't do enough to like market it and get the word out. So it was a big stress relief to see it just kind of naturally go out there and be welcomed and just start doing okay right away, because what we talk about is such like a niche topic and most people don't know that they probably need to know some of this stuff. So I was a little worried about it, but I'm happy so far. You know, each chapter starts with like a little memoir, a little sea story, because 20 years in the Navy, gotta have a sea story. And then it goes into data, facts, and information about eating disorders, disordered eating, body dysmorphia, all these things, but specifically for the military community, military and veterans. And there wasn't a book that had that with the data and information. And so I thought it was really important that we had a place to go find that. And then each chapter ends with a different tool for the toolbox. So whether it's another group, a support group, a podcast, another book, just something else, a tool for their toolbox if you want to keep learning or find more support.
And I love that you have that in there because of the fact that a lot of times we don't realize, just how much those like little things can really change your mindset or your life in general. And, you putting that information in there and not just, telling a story, like you're giving tools for other people that may be in similar situations. And I'm all about the name, Battle Scars and Body Wars. I'm a fan. I'm very heavily scarred, so I always support.
Yeah, and I wanted to like call out like the scars we see and the scars and the scars we don't see, because those ones still impact us too.
Oh, very much. And I think sometimes people they get stuck behind the not all scars are visible or only scars are visible that you can see. And at the end of the day, there's you can be scarred in both manners and not even realize it sometimes, especially internally. And I think that it's so interesting that we're having you on. My Alive Day is coming up on the 30th of June. So for me, like, it's a time that I usually sit back and I reflect a lot on, what I've survived and, having those memories creep back up. And I think, staying on your mental health and, always looking for new tools for your toolbox, is so important. And I think that a lot of people, they really overlook that and they really shouldn't.
I agree. And, especially when you find yourself in like those dark places, if you don't know where the tools are by then, it's really hard to kind of find the tool in the dark, literally, right? Like, think about that. Like, you need a few of them. You need a few tools. So even if you're kind of blindly like digging around in the toolbox, that you can find them. So it's good to kind of have some maybe on your shelf and, ready to go, because here's the thing. We know we're all going to have dark days. We all are. And we enjoy the light days when we have them. And it's all temporary. That's the good news and the bad news. The dark ones, those are just temporary. But unfortunately also the really light days are temporary too, because we're going to go through that. So it's just kind of, how do you prepare yourself for that? And how do you remind yourself, what it takes to kind of navigate. And tools are going to change from time to time. And I'm a big resource person, and I probably over resource people because I'm like, this is a buffet. Take what you need, leave the rest. Worst case scenario, you have them to give somebody else if they need it.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I've talked about alternative medical treatments that, veterans didn't know about in the most random places, from like lines at rock concerts to like literally in the airport, showing my Alpha Stem device, and, them being able to even try it was something that it helped them be able to even board the flight at all. And, you never know when you can be there for someone else, like I love what your motto is, and I think that it's so fitting for this book, and I'm excited for you. And honestly, and authoring a book is not easy work. I learned a lot this last year with helping with May's book, We Can Do It. And, there's a lot that goes behind it, and with the editing and the whole process, and then trying to, push it out there, right? And you always second guess yourself, especially when, we tend to learn trial by fire style. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, I got cold feet a couple times. I had been working on this for years, and initially I was gonna just, so many people asked for my full life story, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like write a full memoir. But that's the thing too. Like when you start on a journey to write, you really gotta just be open to where it goes and like figuring out what people need. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to write a full memoir. Maybe I still will. I have most of it kind of laid out because that's the way it was going to go. But the more I started listening to people and hearing, what was needed, because I didn't want to only write this for me. If that's the case, then I could just keep it on my desktop or, wherever. But I really wanted, again, like a tool and a place for, advocacy and knowledge and myth busting and, fact places, and just also places to feel like validated. But I also think that was like one of the more difficult things when writing the book was that, a lot of times whenever you make any kind of contact, you kind of know who you're making it for, but I was making it for very different demographics, different groups, because I wanted to write this for military leadership. Like, what do I wish my leadership knew as a senior chief? Like,
right.
what do I wish I knew about eating disorders as a senior chief, or, and then for, loved ones who has somebody, dealing with this, maybe they don't necessarily relate that way or know that they do. But, they're wanting to support and understand. I wrote it for policymakers who make some big decisions that maybe impact more people in different ways that they hadn't thought about, and they needed to see some data to understand it. And then I wrote it for people struggling, maybe you're reading this on one of your dark days, and just remember that there is light. And so that is our motto, need a light, be a light. And I say it in two different ways. I say it with the semicolon, right? Because we know the semicolon means your story doesn't end here. So it's like, need a light. I'm in that really dark place, but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end in the dark. And so sometimes to get yourself out of that, if you can kind of like shine a light for others, and you kind of stop and realize it, like you've illuminated your path while doing that. And then we also say it like with the question mark, like need a light, question mark, be a light. Like try being who you needed when you were in those dark places. If you needed like an intrusive sister friend, go knock on some doors. Like if you needed a mom, if you needed a mentor, be that. And it really kind of does both. It reaches those in the dark and it lights your path too.
And I love that. And I know for me, May's gotten after me to write my autobiography, and I'm working on it now. And some of my mentors, the first thing they asked me was, what is your purpose for writing this? Is it for revenge? Is it to help others? Is it just informative? Like, what is your purpose? And had I said, yes, it's for revenge, they would have absolutely said, you have a good day. We can't be part of that. And that was really not what I wanted to do. But that was always a struggle too, is thinking about like, what to include and what not to include, you know, in your writing. And you know, sometimes you second guess yourself. It's not easy.
Yeah, I actually went kind of the other way. So I started with, I'm going to write a full memoir. Then it was, no, I'm going to just write a book with data. And then I had to talk to my mentors, and they're like, no, Leah, people need a face, a person, a human like personality to attach this data to. They need to see that it's not something you can see, right? And like I really struggled that with that, even with founding, you know, my nonprofit organization. When I first founded it, I really did not want to be in front of any of it with my face. I didn't want to do podcasts. I didn't want to do speaking engagements. I didn't want to even tell anybody I had an eating disorder. I couldn't. When I first founded SEA WAVES, I could not say the words, I had an eating disorder for 30 years. I couldn't say it.
That's brave to even be so forthright with it, because it's really something that's a taboo almost topic in the military, and it really should be something that's spoken about far more, especially for, you know, service members that have to go through, like in their branch, like the eyeball program or other things like that that are really not off statistics but more off of, you know, someone's subjective opinion. You know, it's difficult, and I think that, you know, you going forward and not only founding a nonprofit around it, but then going even further and putting a book out about it, you know, I mean, I would say that it would be worth it even if one person was helped, but I'm sure you've already helped those people starting, and you just, the book's only been out, what, a few months now?
Yeah, the feedback that we've gotten really did validate that, you know, it was worth it. And you know, and again, with the hard parts of like what to include, oh, you know, I definitely had my anger paragraphs in there that would have been like my revenge paragraphs, and that was therapeutic to type it out, and it was also just as therapeutic to hit delete. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, acknowledged. And now, you know, but also there was some more vulnerable things that I was like, am I adding value by adding this, or am I, you know, pouring too much? And so, and there was some things that I waited until the last day, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. And I think that this part's important. It might hit somebody that needs to read this part, and I'm just going to be, you know, kind of brave and do it. So yeah, that kind of part too was like, you know, balancing what do I include, what do I don't. But you know, the last thing I want to do also was like tell a story that gives somebody, you know, ideas of how to cover up their eating disorder, or you know,
Yeah.
to kind of withdraw even further. And then there's some really heavy content. You know, I work so hard to be a light in people's lives, and you know, content and trigger warning, like you definitely want to avoid chapter 4. If you're, you know, in a dark place, don't read that chapter right now. It will still help with healing. And oh, you know, maybe you read it with somebody, you know, a therapist, a friend, a sister, something like that, if you know you want to read through that. So it was hard to give space for the dark stuff too.
Yeah.
But isn't that kind of what makes the light like more light? And you know, and I I really pride myself in being transparent, especially like in today's world of social media and you know all these positive posts. And I love making positive posts. But that doesn't mean that I don't have dark days too and dark spots too. So it was definitely a balancing act of sharing the dark spots, but explaining that if you thought that was dark and you can see me come through, and I got the light now, then you can too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the bravery it takes just to write it and just put it out there, you know, like I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
That's good though. Those are steps. That's still steps. And you know, write it, girl, write it. Even if you don't publish it right now, you know, it's still a legacy that you can leave behind. And even if you never publish it, like absolutely write it. Your story, we all have a story. We all have a story to be told. And then I, you know, even think about like now and like moving forward, like when I think about different things, like I think about like the next chapter, and I like just like metaphorically, and I'm like we don't have to bring the same characters from last chapter into next chapter. We don't have to. It's a choice, and then, as you're, assessing relationships and boundaries and all these things, like, I think that we forget, especially I think us veterans, every now and then I'll like wake up and I'm like, I have a DD-214. Like, I can go anywhere. Like, I don't have to like, I have freedom, and I think
Probably
that
when you
we
found the
kind of
golden ticket in your hand,
yeah, I do.
running around everywhere with it.
I got it. But I think we do that with our lives. And I even tell like my kids, I'm like, you guys, like, your chapter can be in a completely different state. It can be in a different country. Like, you can write it. You choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And so while we're talking about a little bit about like things that we wish we would have known in the military, and just advice for people going through things in the military, what would you say are common myths or misconceptions surrounding eating disorders in the military?
Oh, not even just the military, but first misconception in general is eating disorders occur in any size body. And the severity, you cannot tell the severity of an eating disorder based off the size of someone's body. And then I'll just go a step further, is that they occur males, females, all ages. This is not what we saw on the Lifetime channel or on the the 90s talk shows of adolescent white females. This is all ages all the way through. And so now you pull that into the the military context, where much higher rates of this, because of the culture and the stigma and all the things, that it can literally be anybody. I mean, I was a senior chief. I was at E8 when I got medevaced off of the aircraft carrier because I had to go inpatient for my eating disorder. I was in my 30s. I was a mom, and I wasn't in a tiny body. In fact, less than 6% of people with an eating disorder fall into the underweight category.
Yeah.
So 94% of people are going to be struggling not in the underweight category. And you can still have malnutrition and body organ failures, all these things, even if you're in a larger body.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was thinking was interesting when I was reading a few studies on VA.gov and NIH.gov. And they were talking about, they had done a study, and they said like the majority, I think it was like 95 or 96 or 7% of the actual test subjects were considered clinically overweight. And it was just something that, you're like, it's a stigma that you see a lot on, TV or, sensationalized and very specific media outlets or interviews. And so you really don't realize that, it could happen to anybody.
Absolutely can. And, and then the military community is at a much higher risk, right? We even see that military spouses and children are 3 times more likely than civilians to develop an eating disorder. And the number one indicator, there's a lot of different reasons why an eating disorder, would develop, or those behaviors would develop. It's, a bunch of different reasons, and sometimes that perfect storm kind of creates. But one thing we do know across the board, that the number one indicator that we've seen is the pursuit of intentional weight loss. So choosing to go on a diet, or choosing to shrink yourself for whatever the reason. Maybe it's weigh-ins, maybe you got to get taped, maybe you just have a wedding, or your dress uniform, or whatever it is. If you start a diet, you are at risk.
And that's something you don't think about either, too, because, in your mind, you think like a diet would, potentially make me healthier. But a lot of times there's a lot of unhealthy ways that people do diet or cut weight. Me as a medic in the military, that was something that I saw the results of quite often, where like that was back when, what was it? Zenadrin. And like all those like not fen, but it was like right afterwards, like the yellow jack, like all kinds of stuff that people were taking. And it was a straight caffeine really. And a lot of other things like niacin, things like that. And, they would be passing out like when we would do exercises like left, right, and center. I remember we did one, and between that and the guys deciding that bringing a 2-liter of Mountain Dew or extra cans of Rippets instead of water was a good idea. But they both were, severely dehydrated, and we had to deal with that quite often.
And it's a tale as old as time. Like when
Yeah.
I first came in before 9/11, the same like diets are told like, oh, do the the military diet and the cabbage soup diet and the apple diet and the and we call it different things. We call it different things, but still, like to this day, I see advice being given on these, forums and the enlisted forums, and I think it is given with like the right intention, right? Like we don't want to see anybody fail or feel upset that they, what their body size is. So we pass on what we've been told, and at some point we got to kind of call it out. We got to call it out what it is. It's disordered. If you're intentionally dehydrating yourself, if you are, just punishing your body to make it a certain size, and then the same like as leaders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we see you pass your test and it's like, oh, green check, great, you pass. But as leaders, we need to start asking how.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would see even women even do like those body wraps, to make sure that they may tape, especially if they were on the borderline, and especially now, like PT tests are so much a part of promotion. I don't remember it being as much of an impact when I first came in, but by the time I got out, it was, if you failed your PT test more than once or twice, like you were probably not looking at a career.
Yeah. Half a pound over, half an inch over, and you could lose everything else that you've worked for. And it doesn't matter if you're an admin person and you work inside of a dark, air conditioned computer area. Like it doesn't matter if you're half an inch over, so you're worth it. And so then, we kind of look at that like on the mental health side. If somebody's struggling and they're struggling, and there's a ton of reasons why somebody would not be within the standards that are set, and they change all the time, but they're still really archaic. And so that was the other thing, when you said like, what do I wish like people in the military know, is that like failing it is not a sign of laziness or lack of discipline or any of those other things. There's a lot of reasons why somebody would fail. And so making that assumption right away of like, oh, I wouldn't want to be on the battlefield with somebody that's not within standards. And it's like, have they recently had abdominal surgery? Do they have any, like, there's all kinds of reasons. Yeah. I'm human. I had 6 months to be back at my size after I had my first daughter. I'm like, what are we asking our bodies to do? So I think like really taking that stuff into account, because then we don't like watch our language. We watch what we say. So if somebody's like internally struggling, because I remember for the first 10 years, I didn't tell anybody about my eating disorder. So mind you, I had my eating disorder since I was 11. So I came in the Navy with it. I just thought I was recovered. I thought I'd be fine. Not a big deal. Until I got weighed publicly in front of my peers. And I was like, that number will never not be the smallest number I could physically make myself have it be. Like, because it goes in your record forever. And I knew I was going to do forever. I thought I was going to do 30 plus years. And I was like, I don't want that number in my record. So that already, right? But in the back of my mind, I kept meeting people and hearing what they would say and hearing what leaders would say. And there was different times that I would be really struggling to the point of considering ending everything to end that voice in my head, right? And I was like, who can I talk to? Who can I talk to? And I'd meet different leaders and I'd be like, oh no, they were just fat shaming somebody, like last week, like they wouldn't understand this, or, like I would put little breadcrumbs. So it's like, you really got to watch everything that you're saying, because if somebody's struggling, and that's the next myth I want to bust. If you tell me that you don't know anybody with an eating disorder, I need to see your phone, because if you have more than 3 people in your phone, data and statistics will tell us otherwise. Okay. So again, this is not what we see, what you think you see when you look at somebody, if they're struggling or not. Absolutely. If they are though silently struggling and you have said things that they know that they can't confide in you now. That's one less person. So we do all this talk of like, oh, we're sick of losing 22 a day. And, this veteran suicide, we wanted to get down to 0. Of course we do. I believe it. I believe we all feel that way, right? Like whether we're Navy, Marines, like whoever we are, that's the one thing we all have in common. We are sick of losing our brothers and sisters. But if we don't acknowledge that 1/3 of them have an eating disorder, and we're not making it easy for them to come talk to us, the number one cause of death for somebody with an eating disorder is suicide. We're not going to move the needle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have to keep in mind with studies too, that usually, especially with veterans, I've found that they're only quantifying the data off of the people that they were able to speak with. So a lot of times it's more of a guesstimate. Yes. And most likely it's significantly higher numbers that are out there than the ones that I was looking at even earlier today, and the ones that you were speaking about as well. So I'm going to read this really quickly because I thought it was really important. So this is an NIH.gov study. And so if any of you haven't gone to NIH.gov, I highly recommend it, especially if for claims like you want to type in you were deployed to somewhere, you were TDY somewhere, it'll tell you anything that you could have possibly been exposed to. So it's an excellent resource as well. But disordered eating, particularly binging and purging, may serve as a self-medicating function or act as a coping mechanism to manage post-traumatic stress symptoms. Literature suggests that there's a bi-directional relationship between eating disorders and PTSD. And it also went on to say women with an eating disorder were found to be significantly more likely to have PTSD. So the number was 57.1% than women without an eating disorder, which is 25.9%.
For me, I know that MST is a part of that too.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, how would you say trauma and eating disorders may overlap?
Oh, we definitely see it hand in hand for exactly what you just read. It's a coping mechanism in many ways. A lot of people think it's about food. That's just the symptom. It goes a lot deeper. But when you look at coping mechanisms, especially in the military community, I mean, we know right away drugs is zero tolerance. You don't do it or you're kicked out. We get a lot of education around alcohol and how to not abuse it. And, there's a lot of campaigns around alcohol. What's next? Food and exercise. And yeah, it could be used for good. It can also be used for bad. And, and especially if you're, having to do extreme behaviors to make standards, turning that on and off like a light switch doesn't always happen, right? Like we even see this with our special forces. And I only did SEA school, which is just 2 weeks, but that was my
school. That's not a fun school though.
No, you were talking earlier about going to vacation by the lake, and I'm like, SEA school ruined that for me. No, thank you for that. But expeditionary, we have our Rangers, 20% of our special forces are struggling with an eating disorder. They go through these schools, which, don't get me wrong, they're really, really important schools, and you need to know how far you can push your body, and you need to know if you could survive if you're a prisoner of war. Like, I'm not discrediting the need for these schools. What I am saying is that there needs to be education on the front end and the back end of how to turn the switch back on. Okay, because once you've learned what that kind of feels like without food, and there's reasons why you get endorphins after intermittent fasting. There's reasons why you get endorphins from purging. Honestly, it sounds crazy if you don't know, but there's endorphins. And so if you're practicing this for different reasons, whether it's for school or to shrink your body or just stress, or, maybe you really did just start with an intermittent fasting, and then you're not educated the way we do around alcohol and other things of how to responsibly, navigate around it, of course it's going to be a coping mechanism. And we know that we get a lot of trauma in the military one way or another. If not MST, then, and it's not even just combat. We have trauma from what we just talked about, losing our brothers and sisters. That was one of my biggest trauma, was finding my mentor. We'll leave
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah.
And big trauma there, right? And so we mix all this into this lifestyle and then act surprised that there's a coping mechanism that's dangerous and killing us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I can personally attest to like how stigmas around, how you look can have life or death consequences in the military. I had a triple limb salvage because I had arterial blood clots in both legs, my right arm, my heart, and my left kidney. And because I wasn't stick thin in the pre-Kardashian booty loving era, that was my era of service. But at the end of the day, I was in the gym every day because I knew I couldn't run. I could do all the push-ups and sit-ups all day, but I couldn't run fast. I'm short. I can't run. I never could run. And so for me, I took it serious and I did that. But I had a supervisor that she saw an opportunity, and I couldn't walk more than 50 feet. She forced me to do my PT test like 2 months early, and she's like happy and laughing and smiling as I'm like crying, screaming, trying to even like walk it. Like I was in that much pain. And for me, like then they put me on the Fat Girl program, and like I couldn't ride I couldn't use the elliptical or the treadmill, and so what they would do is they would make me sit on the elliptical. I'd fall off because I couldn't feel my feet, and so that every time I couldn't do it, they'd say you have to go to the ER. Well, they ignored me for 6 weeks, and so in that time, I had necrotizing fasciitis. I had a bilateral fasciotomy. I had arterial grafts. I very much should not be here today to even tell the story, but unfortunately, no one was punished. Like my supervisor, like they all applied for medals. Five people applied for medals. I know because my commander told me. But and it was all based off of the eyeball program. They wanted. And for me, like I wasn't a slacker. Like I was an instructor trainer. Like I was always busy running somewhere, doing something. But yeah, like it very much stigma can kill. And so for me, like I'll get on my soapbox now, but absolutely, how we respond to things like this can absolutely traumatize somebody else.
100%. Yeah. And even whether you know that they're listening or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like the first time on my live day, I told my story in full, and one of the people responsible actually heard it. And then he called people up saying how he read my medical records and all this stuff. And I was just like, dude, like, you understand that that's a HIPAA and that's $10,000 sheet fine, and I will enforce said fine. But yeah, absolutely. And so if you could tell a veteran actively or a service member actively struggling with an eating disorder one thing, what would you tell them?
That you deserve better. You deserve peace. That mental peace, that emotional peace. Like you deserve a life that isn't wrapped around what numbers on the scale or the numbers, on the calories or the numbers like everywhere. You deserve just a life worth living. And you don't have to be like so sick and because that's the thing with like eating disorders. Like your brain will always tell you you're not really that sick or you're not sick enough. It's just never there. It's just never enough. And so you don't have to let it go until you're just what you would consider so sick. And every little step counts. So whether it's just read a book, listen to a podcast, join a support group, just talk to one person, and just confide little by little that I'm struggling. And so kind of the opposite side too, like if there's somebody that you're concerned about, like you're listening to this podcast and you're like, you're just picturing somebody or, somebody's on your heart or like their name or their faces kind of come into your mind. That's for a reason. And so you can so easily say, like, we really need to normalize saying, do you struggle with your relationship with food? Or do you struggle with your relationship with your body? Like that is an okay question to ask. Just as we would ask, like, are you struggling to sleep? And we know if they say yes, that it's probably layered into some other things. Are you struggling with your relationship with food?
Yeah. It should be something that it's not a shame, like laden question. It should be something that, you can answer without having to feel judged.
Right.
And I think maybe that's part of the reason why a lot of veterans or service members, they really don't talk about it. It's just that shame. None of us want to stand out and be the oddball for any reason, and so we try to like hyper blend, I guess, with everybody else. At least that was my experience. I can't speak for everybody.
No, I think that's true. And I think like nobody wants to be the weakest link. Nobody wants to have a diagnosis or a title, and nobody wants to, yeah, we don't want that. And it's there. It's there. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, there's struggles, just like we said, kind of opening up. Like, we're gonna have the dark days. We're gonna have them. We're gonna have diagnoses, we're gonna have struggles, like we're gonna have them. Like, let's talk about them and get through them. Not talking about it doesn't help. That much I know, especially eating disorders. Like, these really thrive in the dark. They're so isolating, they're so consuming, that it has never surprised me that the number one cause of death is suicide when it comes to this, because of just how isolating and consuming it is.
And really, it's not something that you think about with an eating disorder. Like, you would think that it may be like factors related to, like the deficiency and like their malnutrition, but you're saying suicide and you're like, that makes entire sense, but it's not really something that's talked about, and it should be.
Yes. So thank you for giving a platform for us to talk about that.
Yeah, anytime, sis.
Yeah, it'd be great if anybody has any questions. I love answering questions.
So I don't see we have any questions. We have some people checking in and saying hello from other podcasts. But if you do have questions, send them in to us, and we will ask Miss Leah the next time we have her on. So if you have questions about eating disorders, if you have questions about her book, you have questions about her nonprofit organization, go on her Instagram or her webpage. You see the running banner below. It's www.sea-waves.org. And you can also, I love your Instagram as well, because of the fact that there's so much great information on there. Like, and it's all mired in fact. It's not just like random, like Canva art, on your page. It's, it's actual like documented information with sources. And that's really helpful, especially when you're going through a journey like this. And so tell us, I know you've been doing a whole lot with your book and your tour basically around the US in a way. So tell us about your upcoming event, A Lone Star Salute, on July the 2nd.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that one, because I've only been to Texas one other time, and it's when I got to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I was contacted by another really wonderful eating disorder nonprofit, Something for Kelly, and they were saying, hey, it's the 250th, and we want to talk about eating disorders, but we want to talk about our military, we want to talk about first responders, but we also like want to celebrate things too. And so we're just like, hey, can you come talk? Let's talk about the eating disorders, but can we also like just get some light? So I'm gonna come do my keynote, the Need a Light, Be a Light keynote. So we'll talk about some of the stuff that needs to get talked about, but we're also gonna all leave there feeling really good and ready to just to spread some light. And I was feeling a little bit like, I don't know, I guess we'll say a fish out of water, because I had been to San Antonio, which, by the way, I'm convinced that is the best place for women veterans to gather. Like, I get so much women veteran FOMO for all the cool stuff, especially shout out to May at the Women Veteran Calendar and all the events that they do. And I could go on and on. But then I was like, Dallas is kind of far away, and we're right outside Dallas and Addison. And I was like, I don't think I know anybody. So I've been kind of, delayed on everything in my life lately, but I was like, I put a post up last week and I was like, well, who do I know in Dallas? I'm going to be there. And I just kind of didn't think that it was going to, go anywhere. And
Get
my
that.
sisters showed up, and then a few of the other sisters, and we've been running our Need a Sister, Be a Sister campaign all month
I
because
love
of
that.
Women Veteran Recognition Month. And
Yeah.
and I spread that, and I mean that for other people. And then like again, like just kind of like blew my mind. I was like, no, that's me too. Like my sisters are showing up for me, and they're traveling
Mhm.
from San Antonio, and I was like, oh my goodness. So while I was feeling like I don't know, I wouldn't call it dread, but I just wasn't feeling like connected and like,
Yeah, you were hyped enough
and
yet.
now I'm so excited. Now I'm so excited that a few of our sisters are coming, and military active duty and veterans are free. So we have the flyer, we'll kind of include that. And it says that there's an expiration on registration, which, that was ideal. And don't let that stop you from registering. Please come on out, and stop by. I'll be doing the keynote, and we'll be doing some giveaways, and then I'll sign books. There's a few other veterans that are coming to sign their books, and one of my
Yeah,
former fleet master chiefs, who was a mentor to me, he said he's going to try to stop by. I'm like, this is going to be so exciting.
I'm excited for you, and I love that they're coming out too. They're probably like, "Am I in the book?" Like,
You got to come. You got to come see the signing.
my copy. No, sir, I can't. No spoilers. But if anyone wants more information about the event, it is on our pages for Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. So just go ahead and click on there. Unfortunately, the overlay with flyers is not exactly always simpatico on StreamYard. So definitely go on our pages and you can get more information there as well. And so, where can our viewers go to find out more information about Sea Waves or to purchase your new book?
Well, Sea Waves is the website below, sea-waves.org. All of our platforms are at Sea Waves Inc. And we have an amazing marketing team, like you said, that try to really quality content out for that. And also, Battle Scars and Body Wars is on Amazon, and you can also do a Kindle. And everybody keeps asking for an audio book, so that's going to be coming soon. But if you want it signed, order the book from the website, our website, Sea Waves. If you don't care to have it signed, then of course Amazon will get it there quicker than I can. Or if I guess I won't limit myself. If you're anywhere in Texas, come on by on July 2nd and say hi, and we'll have some books there and some swag, some self-care.
I love that. I've started a small library with some of the authors that I've met that have signed books for me that I've met through the podcast or like around my advocacy. And my daughter roasted the crap out of me the other day. I'll tell you guys what she said. So she says she believes I'm over 2,000 years old. I don't know if she thinks I'm a vampire or what, but she said that I was so old that I had an autographed copy of the Bible from Jesus. I was like, really? Your mom's at that, first of all.
You should play along. I feel like you should play along.
I
Like,
do.
I would keep going. I would keep going with this thread.
Yeah, she's quite creative, like her mother.
I wonder if she knows like what the encyclopedia series are. She would know what those are. Do you remember those? We used to have
Yeah,
it on the shelf, like 24 of them.
we used it like 3 times for school projects, but damn it, it was worth the investment to our parents, right?
Yeah, and these kids don't know what they have with Google. Now I sound so old.
Seriously, right? No, I used to have to do the same thing. I know exactly. Like they're like red leather bound, and then the black leather bound, and I think green, if I remember right. I might be off, but I'm right there with you, sis. And so we'll go ahead and do our knowledge drop for this evening. I'm not going to play the music because it's not the same not watching Amelia dance to it. Uh, but so what I wanted to talk about quickly today is chiropractics. Did you know, as a veteran with service-connected issues that requiring chiropractic care, that you are given 12 chiropractic sessions per year?
I did not know about chiropractic, But I did know about the 12 acupuncture sessions because that's what I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I've been doing the 12 acupuncture sessions. So that makes about sense that there's chiropractic too. And I heard that some of the VAs do massage, or allow
Yeah, I've heard
referrals
through
for
like Whole
massage.
Health, I think it is. I may be incorrect on that, but I believe it's through Whole Health is how they schedule it.
Mhm.
But it's sometimes like as a veteran, you have to like kind of like really know exactly all the steps because sometimes your doctor will look at you like you have three eyes or something. And you're like, no, you have to
Yeah,
do that.
and I saw that there was like an orthopedic pillow that they're issuing now too, and I was like, note to self, I need
Right.
that pillow.
Two fused discs. I could use that. But they actually, so unfortunately, the VA does not pay for decompressive spinal therapy. However, I can tell you that there is one chiropractor here in San Antonio that does it for free in addition to the service. And honestly, it helps veterans, especially veterans that have like stress injuries from wearing like body armor, things like that. But it works significantly to the point where they're avoiding surgical intervention because of how well it works. But you can absolutely request a community care chiropractor as well. I know I did because the chiropractor that I saw basically told me that I was a quitter for getting divorced, and I he was like this whole like lecture that had nothing to do with why I was there, and I was like, yeah, no, that's a pass, that's a hard pass. But you can request community care, and if you drive even more than 1 mile to any appointments for the VA, you can claim it as a mileage expense and be reimbursed your gas.
Wow, good to know.
Yep, and anything
This
over a
is
3-hour drive, I believe your lunch is included as well. And I think if it's a whole day, the like motel expenses can be added to it.
good to know.
Veterans have
This
to
is
drive.
why we have to connect as veterans because,
Oh
like
yeah,
you said, some of this stuff is just word of mouth. We have to tell each other, and
yeah.
you never know who really needs it, right? Like
Yeah, and there's so many people that gatekeep, and I'm like, why would you gatekeep information? It's not like if someone else gets it, you don't get it anymore. That's not how that works.
that part.
You
In
share the
fact,
information. Like, let's help each other. Come on.
exactly. An
None of us
open
are
gate means you can receive some information as well.
exactly. And also file free clothing allowance. The cutoff is 1 August of this year, and so people that are eligible, I'm gonna keep ringing this whole like VA clothing allowance horn for a while because I didn't know I was eligible for 10 years. And it was actually an argument. I got into a breakfast argument, and I was wrong. So I tell everybody that I can about the military clothing allowance for the VA. Let me see how much it is this year. I think it's $1,200.
And so this is if you are, if you have any issues that put wear and tear on your clothing, like like a knee brace or any kind of like prosthetics or anything that would put wear and tear on your clothing,
Yes.
right?
So if you have like they're more specific on the creams, but they do have a few exceptions for creams that stain or discolor clothing, or if you were to have a brace, or if, for example, you had a transferable wheelchair, and say, for example, you also had forearm crutches, right? Those are two separate allowances. I think the most I've ever seen a veteran get allowance wise was 8 different allowances in the same year. But it has to be done within 2 years of being issued that prosthetic or brace. But it's something that so many veterans don't have an idea that it exists, and it's use or lose. So it's a $1,053.19 this year, and that is on top of your VA benefits. You don't have to file like a claim. It's quite literally one sheet of paper that I literally do it right at the counter in like the prosthetics office because they'll date stamp it. But I'll ask like, what date did I have my last AFO brace? Because I've got the Forrest Gump brace because I have drop foot. And so I claim my brace. And, there's sometimes I've even been denied because they didn't know what the brace was. And you can absolutely challenge it if they deny and you feel you have a legitimate request. But you can also go on va.gov and you can fill out that same form and fill it out virtually as well. So you don't necessarily have to be there. But it does make it easier if you don't know exactly when you had your last brace or prosthetic issued to you.
Good to know.
So that was our knowledge drop of the day. Sorry, that was a long one, but I felt it was important.
It is.
But all right, well, we're going to go ahead and close it up for today. But sis, before we do, let's do some final thoughts. What are your final thoughts for the day?
Well, I normally close on Need a Light, Be a Light, but with it being the end of June and us really highlighting our women veterans this month and Women Veteran Recognition Day and, all of that, I, I'm going to go with Need a Sister, Be a Sister.
Absolutely.
That person that that just came to your mind when I said that, maybe you haven't talked to her since boot camp, or, just life gets in the way. Make it a point, do a check, right? We always talk about buddy checks, but we don't really talk about how to do a buddy check, and then it gets a little awkward. Like, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Why don't you say, like, how's your light right now? Is it bright? Is it flickering? Are you feeling a little cloudy? Are you in the dark? Do you need a little bit of my light? What would help? Like, what is light right now? And I think that that's a really easy way that is approachable for us to answer in a buddy check. So I would say, need a sister, be a sister, check on a sister, and ask how her light is.
Absolutely. And I think that you're right. And especially, like, I feel like us as women veterans, like, we don't congregate together nearly as much as our brothers, at least from what I've seen over the years. But we are very lucky here in San Antonio, where we have so many fantastic organizations for women veterans specifically. You definitely have to come to our dining out next year. That was very fun. But we do know that you're a bit farther than us, than, just a few hours. But you can always stay out here on the ranch if you'd like. But
Count me in. Count me in. I already made a promise that I was going to be there. So count me in for that one.
Nice. Yeah. And like what Leah was saying, even if you just make it your mission, if you start like once a week, maybe check on someone that you haven't talked to in a long time, or, maybe once a day, little things like that, it really adds up. And, you may really save a life and not realize that you were doing that. Indeed. Because I think a lot of times we feel alone and no one else could understand our situation. And I think that, especially with post-traumatic stress, we tend to like self-isolate even more. And so it's sometimes we need that person to like literally fish us out of like the cave, be like, what are you doing in there? Are you hibernating? But, it's definitely important to be there for one another. And it's so easy in this day and age to just say, I'm just going to do me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But imagine the change that you could have if you just put yourself out there even a little bit, and just did one nice thing a day, something small that you wouldn't realize. But, those things add up.
Indeed.
But it was so nice having you on again, Leah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days.
Yeah.
Dang, that was fast. I was like, she's a second. But where has this month gone? You're not joking.
Yeah. And hopefully we see some more sisters and some more veterans, and come on out, come say hi.
Yep, absolutely. Come out and join Leah, and let's support her with an awesome autograph signing. Women totally show up like a fan club. We're gonna definitely plan this now. I'm gonna text Michelle after this.
Let's wear purple.
Like I heart Leah or something ridiculous. We're gonna like walk in, like you're like, why?
I'll be like, my sisters are here. Maybe all the pink camo. I don't know. Wait, yeah. I'm going to Texas. I need boots. Yeah. Oh my god, I need a hat. Okay,
I got a hat for you, girl. I got you a cowgirl hat. It's black. It's got like an American flag on it. So I just made a new one, so you can have it.
Hey, bring it at least for the pictures.
Yeah, girl, I've got all kinds of hats. I thought I would never have a cowgirl hat until I got roasted when I went to the Texas Country Radio Music Awards, and I had a neon Cowboys hat that lit up, and they were like, "My God, your hat glows!" I was like, "What?"
Well, I'm excited for it. Come on out, and I'll be like, "There they are! I found them." I know you all won't be hard to find. I won't be hard to find. So come on out. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Well, like Miss Leah said, if you need a light, be a light. Is that right?
Yes, need a light, be a light.
Well, all right, guys. Have a good evening. We are Yes, I Am the Veteran. Take us away, Aurelia. Good night.
Hi, I'm Aurelia. Just a reminder, smash like, hit subscribe, and click the bell. Please give me my mommy some hearts. Yay, veterans!